Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next episode or the current episode of the Unbroken Veterans Podcast. We are here to talk peak neuro with our friend Tony. Tony, why don't you tell us about yourself?
I'm Tony Crescenzo. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. Uh, I'm also the president and CEO of Intelligent Waves, which is a national industrial base defense contractor, and the co-founder of a neuroacoustic modulation technology company called Peak Neuro.
Excellent. Um, so, right off the bat, how can veterans benefit from your program?
Uh, Great question. I'll give you a little bit of background about me. I spent 8 years in the Marine Corps, back probably before either one of you guys were born, I would imagine, or close to it.
Hmm.
I'm a Beirut veteran. I spent some time there. When I came back, I wound up spending 3 years undercover working for what I think you guys know as NCIS.
Oh,
Back then it was called NIS, and it's not like the TV show, trust me. Like back then, the guys that went to NIS were the FBI agents who washed out of the academy. So not
are you
your,
telling me that you did not work shoulder to shoulder with Mark Harmon?
not even close. In fact, I spent 3 years pretty much undercover alone, every 2 weeks meeting my control agent in a pizza place, um, which resulted in the court-martials of a number of very senior enlisted Marines and a battery commander essentially being relieved. Um, the fallout of that was pretty significant. I was one of four eyewitnesses to some interesting crimes. Two were murdered. One was died accidentally. So I'm the sole surviving witness from that case. And there were two attempts on my life when I was there. So uh,
Man,
I didn't really realize after I got out of the Marine Corps, and you got to remember. We're just having this before we started recording, have this great conversation about some of the characteristics of Marines. But uh, the Marine Corps' motto is Semper Fidelis, always faithful. We never leave our dead or wounded on the battlefield. And for 2.5 years, I kind of got left behind. I was forced to remain in a place where I was pretty vulnerable to attack, and so I got attacked twice. Uh, and my reward for all that was to be court-martialed. I'm actually a recipient of a summary court-martial for being. I was literally found guilty for being 20 minutes late to work and fined $20, but I was charged with a whole lot of other things. 8 months after my conviction, the commandant of the Marine Corps sent an aide to a unit that I was stationed in with a medal, a certificate of commendation from him, and a copy of the 4-page letter of apology he had written to my mother, and a note that my court martial had been overturned, and I got a check for $20, which was really nice because I could use the money back then. Um, I didn't know how badly that affected me. You guys are both combat veterans. You guys are both downrange in Afghanistan. I
yep.
think when you come home, you just figure that's the way things are. It's the culture is very different in the military. Marine Corps doesn't have HR. When you have interpersonal differences in the Marine Corps, you take a walk behind the squad bay, get some exercise, then go have a beer. So that's what I thought kind of civilian life was like. And I chased a guy out of a pharmaceutical company. I was building pill bottle quality control at in my first job because I didn't like the way he talked to me. And lucky for me, he got fired. My boss was a 31 mission Air Force Vietnam veteran fighter pilot.
Nice.
But for him, I'd probably be unloading trucks from UPS. I'm not even sure I can pass the background check for that. Um, but didn't realize for a very long time that I had some serious PTSD and some anger issues. I'd gone to the VA. I don't know if you guys have ever been there for that kind of a thing, but not my favorite place to get treated. In fact, I met with a VA counselor after 2 sessions, told me that I was triggering him, so he couldn't treat me, and I pretty much just went on my own. My first wife and second wife and daughter would all tell you that I had some pretty interesting anger issues, kind of the zero to fuck you guy. I'm sure you know them, you may be them. Um, and when I stumbled onto this program, Peak Neuro, since my long way to get around to answer your question,
No,
uh,
this is like perfect. This is
uh,
exactly what we want.
I had no idea what it was going to do. I got into this on a goof. I read something. I read a declassified Defense Intelligence Agency document. Uh, Went down to try this technology, and the next thing I knew, it just changed me completely. Everybody who knew me wanted to know what the hell had happened, and it did it in 6 days.
So
Um,
real quick,
yeah,
just because I like this context, especially because fairly familiar with the progression of various military activities over the decades.
yeah.
What year did you join? What year did you get out? And then now, follow-up question to that, what year did you go to Peak Neuro and have that
Uh,
experience?
I joined the Marine Corps in 1979, got out of the Marine Corps in 1987.
Okay.
And I didn't experience the tech. It wasn't Peak Neuro at the time. It was a different technology, an earlier version.
Okay.
And that was three years ago. 3 years ago,
Okay.
October of 2022. Uh, just the most transformative experience of my adult life, literally. And my current wife and my ex-wife would both tell you that they got woken up 3 or 4 times a week with yelling, screaming, kicking. Nobody wanted to get in a car with me. No one would. No one wanted to drive. Somebody cut you off, man. It's on, right? It's payback time. And literally, and I see you guys smiling. If you're listening, you can't see these guys smiling, but I know they know what I'm talking about. So how can veterans benefit from the program? Well, I got to tell you, Marines are not known for we're known for being adaptable. I'm not so sure we're known for our high intellect, but yet it still worked on my brain. Um, and so when I discovered, I won't say I discovered it, when I stumbled onto the technology, it wasn't being used for this purpose. It was being used for essentially meditation purposes. And I met the developer, the guy who innovated it and created all of the neuromodulation signals. His name is Bob Holbrook. He's my co-founder. I brought him into Intelligent Waves originally so we could develop this for fighter pilots. One of our customers is the Air Force Fighter Weapons School. Um, we do work with the special operations community. Not Peak Neuro, Intelligent Waves as a company. You probably have never heard of it, but if you go to monster.com and look for the best companies for veterans, we're number two. I think the number one company has more administrators than we have people, but 60% of our employees are veterans. 70% of those are combat veterans. Probably half of them are special operators or Marine raiders, force reconnaissance.
Mhm.
We do a lot of very focused mission work. So I thought it would be great uh, as a benefit for not just our employees, but for our customers. A lot of the work we do is at the tactical edge of the mission, and we see a lot of the outcomes of some of the missions that our customers go on. So the real benefit is you really get your life back. You get your true self back, not the self that adapted to being downrange. What happens when we go to combat or when we're undercover, if you're a first responder or policeman, your body comes home and your mind stays back where you were. Very
Yeah.
hard to turn that off, very hard to take that off once it happens. Our brains are essentially the adaptation of our body's electrical system to our lived experience. They're as different as our looks, but when we all have shared experiences like that, we typically have a lot of shared outcomes. And so this was a way, I think, to share my own good fortune, my own good experience with others.
Yeah. One of the interesting things about that what you were saying about our bodies coming back and not our minds is I had a psychologist explain this to me, and then also Tom Satterley has talked about it. For those who don't know, he's an ex-Delta guy, and basically for him, it kind of got likened into a call sign because he had a call sign. Me, I didn't. I mean, I had a call sign, but it was numbers, so not as cool as crawler. But basically, your combat brain, which your brain relies on for safety and longevity, is on to keep you safe and keep you alive. The problem is that's most necessary in your combat scenario, and it is much less, if not arguably not at all. I wouldn't argue it's not at all, but it could be argued not at all back at civilian life. And so it's basically getting your brain to let go of that just holding on for dear life to
Yeah.
this method of how your brain works that's to keep you alive in a heightened sense of, or in heightened environment of danger. So it seems very much like same kind of concept, which I would think, because all this
Same.
seems pretty consistent across the board.
Neurophysiologically, psychologically, it's all the same. Your
Yeah.
combat brain is a lizard brain. It's when your amygdala lights up and your fight or flight response kicks in, and your ability to really think goes away.
Hmm.
Your brain reverts to pattern matching. And if you haven't seen the pattern, you go a little sideways. That becomes a threat. And whether it's a lack of a pattern or a high degree of ambiguity, when you find yourself in that situation, you revert to type. And we've all been trained to sort of, I guess I'll use the military term, right? It's get off the X. When you're in an ambush, first
Yeah.
thing you do is get off the X. And for Marines, they teach you just turn and run right into the ambush. That's the best way to kill one, right? So
Yeah.
that's our natural and adapted response to threat. And we don't think at all because we're trained to react, all of us.
Yeah.
Um,
Which, I mean, I know from, well, we all know from doing it that if you follow your training and it all becomes instinctive, then that's what'll save your life. But
yeah.
obviously, if you're out of that situation where that's not the case, then all kinds of things can come up.
Well, you know, it's a learned behavior, and
Yeah.
you can unlearn things too, right?
Yeah.
That's what Peak Neuro is about.
Well, like one of my issues was um, insomnia, which was caused by if a um, not routine noise happened when I was laying in bed, then I was awake. Adrenaline was on, and it's because, and it's really irritating when you know exactly why something is the way it is. Like there's no mystery to it. You know the instance of when it happened, but
Yeah.
you still can't do anything about it. And it was Um, I was laying in bed emailing a friend about to go to sleep at what's 6 in the morning. You think it was Nick on the base attack? And a 16,000 pound V-bid was detonated about a kilometer from where we were on base at another part of the base. Now, like to give people perspective, the Oklahoma City bombing was like a 6 or 7,000 pound explosion,
Yeah.
whereas this is 15, 16. So yeah, everyone wondered what the hell was going on, and then it ended up into a whole thing being a base attack, which actually a lot of it was very fortunate because they hit the wrong spot. I don't need to go into it, but really no casualties ended up happening. But that doesn't change the fact that my body was prepared to sleep, my mind was prepared to sleep. And then, I mean, this explosion, I mean, it's a click away from Nick and I. Dust shot out of the vents in
Wow.
the of the AC system. And
Wow.
so it clearly, like everyone knew right away, that was not a mortar. That was very different. So anyway, the point being that so then at home, I'd be lying down, ready to go to sleep. And then at one point I lived near a highway. There was construction at night, could not sleep. My daughter had a like a Woody from Toy Story light that she would put in her bed, and it would time out, so safe. But so she'd turn it on, she would wait and time out. Well, it would fall out of her bed, and it's all plastic.
Oh
And
no.
so the thud, hearing the thud on the floor, I was on, switched on then. And then so I had to find exercises and things to do to prevent that. It's not as much of an issue now, still sometimes can be, but yeah, that just that your brain is at this level and you got to figure out how to change
Well,
where it's at.
it's funny. Sleep is one of the first things we looked at. In fact, we conducted a study with a nonprofit research institute and a university professor, 161 participants over 6 months. Huge changes in sleep, neuroplasticity, threat recognition were all observed in the study. We have a case study we just finished with actually he's fine with me using his name. He's a retired Navy SEAL, 13 years in the teams,
Okay.
12 tours downrange. Came home after he retired. His life just fell apart. Sleeping 3 hours a night, fragmented, no good sleep, anger issues. First time I met him, I think he wanted to fight me in the parking lot of his house because I was 10 minutes late. It's pretty hilarious. And he's a great big guy. He's not, your typical SEAL's like 5'9", a buck 40. This guy's 6'3", about 220. He's a former Division I college football player. Um, in 3 months, he went from sleeping 3 hours that was highly fragmented to 6 hours uninterrupted, very deep sleep. We measure with Oura rings and Whoop devices to make sure that physiological sleep is what it should be. Um, the anger issues are gone. He's, for all practical purposes, normal. In fact, he wrote a book about his experiences, and I think Paramount is making a series that's going to be out this summer about it. Uh,
Interesting.
and this kind of it's an interesting way that the Veterans Network works. I'm a former counterintelligence Marine. I was basically an undercover clerk for a while, so I don't have the special operations background. But apparently, everybody in that community knows each other, including across the services, because he was at a retreat with a retired Delta Sergeant Major, Troop Sergeant Major from Delta Force, who was having very similar problems. And in about a month, his sleep issues got resolved. And one of the questions I know you're going to ask is, where can you get started with the program? You can go to
That
peakneuro.com.
is.
Yeah,
Yep. So say
peakneuro.com.
okay.
It's literally an app you can put on your phone. Um,
Okay.
now I want to explain sort of that it's not as simple as it sounds, but it is as simple as it sounds in some ways. When we treat an individual, when we work with an individual, um, we use see if I can get one here. We use a an EEG cap, and we take a couple of baseline EEGs, right? We put this funky hat on your head and make you sit there looking like a Russian cosmonaut for about 20 minutes. And what we do is we create the entrainment signals based off of your personal neurophysiology. It's literally the math is indexed off of your own brainwaves, but we can't get to everybody. So we created a program that can be delivered to a phone, whether it's an Android or an iPhone. The app is literally called Peak Neuro. You can download it for free. It's got some sleep signals on there. I think there's a 30-minute power nap and a 10-hour sleep. And those are the ones we do for individuals. They get tailored for individuals, but they work pretty well. I think Mark is the Navy SEAL. When he used it, it worked for him. We've had, I think, 100% success rate with people getting very high quality sleep. I'll give you sort of a great example of my own experience. I was an average 62-year-old sleeper when I started the program, which means on a Whoop device, if I looked at my sleep, I was getting 18 to 22% restorative sleep. That's a combination of REM sleep and what's called deep delta sleep, which is physically restorative. That's what you miss when you're hypervigilant when you sleep. You never get into the delta and your body doesn't restore itself. That's why you feel like crap the next day. Um,
Wow.
in 6 months, I went from 22% restorative sleep to 47% restorative sleep. So almost double what someone of my age should have. And so I'll get six hours of sleep, 5 hours of sleep a night, and still sleep better than people who sleep 8 or 9 hours. And
Hmm.
the interesting thing is because your brain is really an adaptability engine. Over time, you don't need to listen to the signals. Eventually, you just sleep well. Um, what we're not just giving you what's called a state change, which means for the time you listen to the signals, your brain feels healthier. This happens over time. So some individuals it takes a month, some individuals it takes 3 months, some it takes 4 months. But over time, your brain will change its pattern so that you can just do this without any scaffolding, without any external support, at least for the sleep part.
So before, because I'm definitely gonna dive more into that. Real quick, I was meant to get to this earlier and then kept getting distracted. Uh, Difference between peak neuro and intelligent waves.
They're two separate companies. Peak
Okay.
Neuro really focuses on the commercial market.
Okay.
So we work with Division I college football teams, professional sports teams, gymnasts. Uh, we work with athletes for performance optimization. Intelligent Waves is really focused on the military applications of this.
Mm.
You guys are both veterans. I probably never heard the term cognitive domain operations, but when we think about our national defense strategy, we think about two different kinds of fights. One is the Indo-PACOM China fight,
Yep.
and the other is the Eastern European let's fight World War II all over again. Up until yesterday, if a commander in the field wanted to know what was going on, where the enemy was, they just looked over the berm. There's the Germans, Russians, North Vietnamese, whatever. In the Indo-PACOM area, in the vast Pacific Ocean, the commander doesn't see anything. They get everything from sensor data, right? That's the electromagnetic spectrum. And China has developed a doctrine called intelligized warfare. And intelligized warfare is focused on what's called the OODA loop. Are you guys familiar with that? That's more of an Air Force term.
No, I'm actually very familiar. In
Yeah.
fact, when I would do, not that I'm like some high speed dude, but I always wanted more training,
Hmm.
and especially on certain things we didn't get good training on that I think thought we needed. So CQB.
Hmm.
So when I would teach close quarter, CQB classes, I talked a lot about the OODA loop and trying to cheat it by information gathering before committing to a room or something like that. So yeah, I love the OODA loop. Let's talk about it because I'm sure there's plenty of people that aren't familiar with it. But
So if you're
yes,
not, if your listeners aren't familiar, it's observe, orient, decide, and act. It was originally developed for fighter pilots in World War II. You get inside the other guy's OODA loop, you go home, he gets shot down. China's approach to warfighting is essentially predicated on two assumptions. One is that the United States fights as a monolith. That is, I'm sorry, the United States fights as a coalition. And that is, we typically fight with NATO partners or other countries. And even when we just fight by ourselves, you guys are in the Army, you'll know this, right? It's hard for the Army to talk to the Air Force. It's hard for the Navy to talk
yeah,
to Marine Corps. Just the comms suck. So the observe orient part of that, as the Chinese look at it, their assumption is that we fight that way. They fight as a monolith, and that we value human life. There's a in every kill chain in the United States warfighting doctrine is a human. We don't put steel on target. We don't put ordnance on target without someone saying yes. Oftentimes, that's a two-star in the field who's got six lawyers standing around him, making sure that everything fits the model, fits the ROE, etc. So the Chinese look to get inside of our OODA loop by using artificial intelligence to compress the observe, orient, decide, and act phase. And before a shot gets fired, they're really focused on two things. One is degrading, denying, or spoofing what's called the perceptual plane. And if you want to get a good look at what this might look like in real life, go to Netflix and look at a movie called House of Dynamite because it's based on a real life scenario. Have you seen it, Nick? It sounds
I
like you, yeah.
I have not. You've seen it, Nick?
Yeah, yeah.
Scary, huh?
It was, yeah, very eye-opening.
So the first attack surface for the Chinese is called the perceptual plane, right? That's electromagnetic communications, satellite communications, networks. Intelligent Waves has a defensive solution from a technology standpoint for each of those attack surfaces. We use communication via modulated light, Li-Fi, versus RF communications, which creates a signal. If you're looking for a network, we have obfuscation technology that takes the network away. So the first thing that the Chinese want to do is uh, in essentially degrade the perception of the commander. In other words, if I don't understand what's happening in the battle space, I can't make good, effective decisions. So my observe and orient phase, that gets degraded or denied, or it gets spoofed, and I put false positives. In House of Dynamite, they're showing deepfake CNN videos of people surrendering, right? And the commander's looking around going, "What the hell's going on?" Once you do that, you
Oh,
create ambiguity, and then you go to the second attack surface, which is called the cognitive plane, the mind of the adversary. And when you create multiple simultaneous cognitive challenges in the mind of the adversary, you slow down their decision making. In fact, bad data, bad observe, bad orient, creates bad decisions. And you think about companies like Anduril and Palantir. Their entire foundation of their business is to accelerate the decision action cycle for the military,
hmm.
but they assume that they're going to get good data. And the data, if it isn't good, bad data creates bad decisions. So,
Yeah.
in terms of, and you guys have been downrange. Nobody sleeps in the field. I have to tell you, I have a board member who is a retired three-star Marine who fought the Battle of Fallujah. the Second Battle of Fallujah, was a commanding general.
Hmm.
And another guy on my board is his boss. He was an Army three-star, General Metz, Tom Metz, who was the chief of staff of all forces in Iraq. Sattler, Lieutenant General John Sattler, is the guy who fought that battle, talks about not sleeping for a year and how General Abazid would just kick his ass every time he saw him because he was basically drunk from no sleep. So
Yeah.
that's the Chinese order of battle. Before you fire a shot, get everybody so confused that they're chasing their own tail and don't know what they're doing. Peak Neuro defends that cognitive surface. It creates decision making under stress. When you get that combat brain, what happens is the prefrontal cortex, this is front of your brain, this is what's called your executive network. All the decisions get made up there. When you're thinking, cogitating, strategizing, ruminating, all of that stuff happens in the front of your brain. And the minute the first round goes down range, that shuts down and you go right to reaction, fight or flight.
Yeah, like we were talking.
So your ability to think through when the shit hits the fan goes away. What we do is we teach you how to keep that executive network online no matter what the circumstances are. So stress does not impact the prefrontal cortex. We keep it lit up online and we give commanders the ability to make decisions in real time. Same thing for first responders. There's no difference between a first responder brain and a special operator brain in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yeah. So then the intelligent waves portion is helping helping the military aspect of it.
Mhm.
Is that kind of the dividing line between the two?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. There's a kind of a separate issue for that as well. When we do work for commercial customers, particularly for police departments, veterans associations, those kinds of things, we tend to give pretty steep discounts, and there's a
Hmm.
reason for that, right? Because there's value in good work.
Yeah.
When you set that price. If you're a government contractor, you've just set the price for the government.
Mm.
So we couldn't afford to do this if we didn't have two separate companies. We don't really make money on Peak Neuro right now. That's we're working with some nonprofit organizations, some foundations to fund the ability to make this available to veterans and first responders for free.
Okay. So I have so many questions. I'm trying to organize my mind uh while we go along.
Hey, I got an app for
Um,
that.
yeah, I was just thinking about that actually as I was saying that. Okay, so and you're working with both active military people, I'm assuming to keep them mentally acute, and then
Um,
there's work with veterans. Is that
Exactly,
correct?
right.
Okay,
So
okay.
the thing with the military really is about building resilience, right?
Yeah.
I don't I won't pry, but I'm sure you're doing this podcast for some public reasons, right? I Treating PTSD sucks. It's hard. It's very hard to overcome some of that. It took me almost 30 years. Um, if you can build resilience in the mind of active duty military service members, they don't get PTSD.
I actually had this epiphany. So this is the thing I want to explore because I
Yeah.
had an epiphany about this a few years ago at the end of a drill, and basically they were just going to hammer us with a bunch of extra shit to do when like Sunday evening, and I'm like, this is why soldiers kill themselves. But then I kind of thought about it, and I'm like, it's shitty to add all this stuff, but it's also kind of shitty that someone is so overwhelmed by it that they kill themselves. So then in thinking about that, I'm thinking like, well, I never took the Master Resiliency Training, MRT as the Army calls it, very seriously until that moment. Because then I thought, well, I guess that's what MRT is supposed to do. It's supposed to make you more mentally resilient, negating the need for follow-up PTSD treatment or minimizing it. And then I talked to a gentleman from Wounded Warrior Project about that, and I was
Mhm.
asking him, what do you think is more effective, MRT or the suicide prevention? Because also keep in mind, the MRT is at least a week-long class to be
Mhm.
certified.
Right.
Suicide prevention is a day. And so we to expand on this, it basically got to where we're talking about it, and he said the best units they're good at both,
Yeah.
but the better a unit is in MRT, the less PTSD problems they have. And then hearing about um some other people that didn't struggle with PTSD at all, regardless of what they were open to. It's because the people above them made a huge point to make it clear that they appreciated what they did, appreciated how they did it, and that they were encouraged to do those things again. And granted, they weren't encouraging them to do war crimes, like I want to be clear about that. But so yeah, this is totally fitting into what I'm this whole podcast has been a learning experience and will
Yeah.
continue to be. But it's really great when I hear these things, see them come together in agreement and harmony, encouraging good practices. So, um, yeah, let's dig in more into this resiliency aspect of it.
Oh, it's really quite simple. Well, it's quite simple once you figure out the math for this kind of stuff. But basically, the approach is to create resilience through neuromodulation. So essentially, we target a state of consciousness, a brain state, or a frame, if you will. I don't want people to think we're putting thoughts in people's heads or
Right,
brainwashing them.
right, right.
That's not really what happens. But there's two things that sort of matter here. One, we started with sleep, and sleep is important from a number of perspectives. You know, you guys served in the military. You clearly have to be physically fit. Um, when you engage in a lot of physical activity, your body cleans itself through its lymph system, right? You have these lymph nodes all over your body, and they take the poisons out of your muscles and your different organs, and they put them in, they drain them into your kidneys and your liver to process. But how does your brain clean itself? There's no lymph nodes in your brain. Well, here's how. When you sleep, when you engage in good sleep, that is what's called NRM3 and delta slow wave delta sleep, the deepest part of your sleep, what happens in your brain is that the glial, you have these cells in your brain called glial cells, they actually shrink, and they shrink so much that they pull cerebral spinal fluid up through your spinal column over your corpus callosum. It soaks into those folds in your brain. And the longer you sleep and the deeper you sleep, the deeper that fluid gets into your brain. And it pulls out amylase plaques, broken proteins, the things that cause Alzheimer's and dementia, along with making you just goofy from lack of sleep. The longer you do that, the better you sleep, the deeper you sleep. What happens then is when you come out of what's called delta sleep, those cells expand, all of the broken plaques, amylase proteins, all the junk goes back down your spinal column into your liver and kidneys and cleans out. When you don't sleep, or if you don't sleep well because you're hypervigilant, uh, you lose that. And there's no amount of sleep, if it's not good sleep, that helps you, right? So you've got delta sleep, which is physically restorative. You have REM sleep, which is emotionally restorative. A lot of veterans have issues with memory, short-term, long-term memory. And that's also true for athletes. We're working with an Olympic gymnast who has been to Ireland 15 times, can't remember ever being to Ireland because you're so focused and have such tunnel vision. I'm sure you guys know this. When the rounds go down range, man, I don't know what's going on around here. I just looking right at whatever I'm shooting at.
Yeah,
Um,
I fell over somebody once
yeah,
because they were
I mean,
behind me, bent over, and I didn't know, and I turned around to run. I just fell right over him. It was incredibly embarrassing.
well, then think about the
But yeah,
memory, right? You get 13, including a corpsman and a Marine rifle squad. At the end of a firefight, everybody remembers something different. Time gets compressed. Everything just kind of goes sideways when that's
yeah.
happening. What we're doing with this is we're regulating that frame. So we're keeping you calm and keeping your cognition online so you can engage physiologically, right? Your body still works, but you're not over you're not overcompensating, right? When your heart rate goes up about above about a buck 20, you lose gross motor control, you can't shoot straight, you can't think
Yeah.
straight. We keep that, help you get that frame down. So when I talk about frame, what I'm really talking about is things like you have to be in a frame of mind to sleep. You have to be in a frame of mind to run a marathon. Now, you don't just get up and go, I think I'll run a marathon today. You really got to get yourself hyped up for that. You have to be in a frame of mind to get in a fist fight. You have to pull that, get the mad monkey going, find the rage. And you can dial that up, right? They teach that in the military. We can teach you to dial it down. And that is essentially helping your brain relearn the patterns that allow you to essentially function with equanimity in a crisis.
Okay, so how is this? How does the rubber meet the road? How is this manifested? For instance, from the app, do you go somewhere? No, okay.
You can
Here.
do it. So
Okay.
there are a couple of different ways to do it, right? One
Okay.
of the It's kind of funny. Peak Neuro is, I think, 2 years old. Every 3 months, I look behind myself and go, what the hell was I thinking? Like, we started with a 6-day intensive program. And you know what the military doesn't have? Time.
Yeah,
No
just
one wants to give you 6 days. In fact, I just had a meeting with the 7th, 11th Human Performance Wing of the Air Force at the Air Force Research Laboratory in Dayton. And I didn't realize I was having a meeting with a doctor who had written a study about PTSD and how the farther away from your home of record you go to get treated for PTSD, the lower your probability of success. It's kind of like addiction and alcoholism. If you go to a residential
yeah,
program on the other side of the country, you got about an 18% success rate. Closer to your home, the better. So, how this works in practice, when we work with an individual, as opposed to what's available on the app when you go download it from the App Store, but with an individual, we will give you a baseline EEG, eyes open, eyes closed, we'll index your brain waves. That gives us kind of a fingerprint of where you are. It tells us if you have, it's not a diagnosis. We don't do diagnosis. But it will show us a pattern, right? You might have a pattern for TBI, concussion, PTSD, ADHD. All of those show up on an EEG in one way, shape, or form. And what we'll do is through an AI engine that we developed that's got 20 million pages of research in neurophysiology, psychology, cognitive neurology, we'll design a protocol, and that protocol will be, say, a half hour in the morning of listening to what sounds like music, but inside that music are signals that are embedded that are entraining your brainwaves. You'll do that probably an hour, hour and a half a day. So it might be 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the afternoon, and 30 minutes before you go to bed. And when you go to bed, you put on a track that sounds like airplane noise or white noise if you have a white noise machine. And embedded in that is a sleep technology that will pull you through every 90 minutes, slow wave sleep to REM sleep to light sleep, slow wave sleep, mimicking human circadian rhythm, but indexed off of your own biology, off your own neurology. Um, you'll do that every day, 5, 6 days a week. But basically, if you have a set of headphones and a phone, Android or iPhone, you can download and use these the more general applications, and we have those for down regulation, up regulation. I'm old, right? Uh, I don't get out a lot. My wife likes to play pickleball. Pickleball is like that old people sport. And I never really have time to play. And we have an exercise we developed for snipers, right? What do you what do you want to do when you're a sniper? You want to be focused and you want to have good somatic physiological control of what you're doing. Because if you've ever been to sniper school, that's like, I mean, you got to contort into some shapes that don't feel good. That's hard to do. That's a young
yeah,
guy sport. Um, so we built this essentially to create what's called a flow state. And on a Whoop device, when I play pickleball, I usually get a 15 or 16 as my physiological stress score. When I use the technology, my stress score goes down to about 10 and I play better. Your focus, your concentration is there. You're basically feels like you're in the zone. And so what we'll do for an individual is we'll design a protocol every 2 weeks. And literally, I've been doing this for a while now. Every 2 weeks, we will either send you a device that you can self-administer, or we will come and take an EEG from you. Because what happens is you start here and we want to move you to here. And over about 2 weeks, your brain will adapt and it will make what's called a trait level change, right? Not when I stop listening, my brain stays in that state, which is what you want. And then we just keep moving it until we get you back to your baseline. Once you get there, then we can optimize. So every
yeah,
2 weeks, we will come back in, take a reading, compare it to the baseline, baseline to baseline to baseline, and then we'll prescribe or design a new protocol. Oftentimes, that's just changing the signal set for someone because now their brain is where it needs to be and it needs to move to the next level. And that can take, like I said, anywhere from 1 to 3 months is the average right now. It's 161 people in the 6 month study and 26 people in what are called pilot studies, each individual. We're working with a retired VA psychiatrist, 29 years in the VA, on a 10-person PTSD and TBI cohort to study the impact on a broader sort of population. But over time, so it's basically every day for an hour and a half, plus when you sleep. And when you sleep, you just put it on a speaker. You're not listening to anything. It's just, just in the background. You
Hmm.
don't really turn it up. And over that time, what it's doing is it's entraining not just the frequency of your brain waves, but the regulatory system of your brain. Your brain is a bunch of neighborhoods. The front, the back, the sides. Things like hemispheric synchronization. Right. Everybody knows left brain, right brain, but in people with high emotional intelligence, you have very high interhemispheric synchronization. Both sides of the brain working together. And that, I liken that to the difference between post holing and 3 feet of snow and snowshoes. When you have both sides of the brain working together, it's like a snowshoe effect. All that stress sits on a much broader part of the cortex, as opposed to just affecting one side or the other. And oftentimes, what we see in things like PTSD or depression, short term depression, long term depression, is an asynchrony, one side of the brain working a lot harder than the other. And when you get that kind of imbalance, that asymmetry, it creates all kinds of issues for people. So we tend to want to balance the brain left to right and front to back. And we do that through these neuromodulation signals that are buried inside of nature sounds, music, doesn't really matter. Sometimes when I listen to them, I just listen to the pure signals because it doesn't matter. I mean,
Yeah.
um, but for most people, you want to hear something kind of pleasant because they're kind of screechy and scratchy. Um, but that's pretty much how it works. So if you go to the website, peakneuro.com, I think um, there are two things you should look at. There's a link to an email if you want to participate in a study and get that kind of specialized attention and treatment. We would love to do that for veterans and first responders. Costs nothing. We don't want to charge you, and all we really want to do is take your data anonymously and use it to make the signals better so we can help others. Um, you can download the app, and in the app are, I think, 4 or 5 trial signal sets, and those are production. It's not like, hey, this is just a stripped down version for people. Those are production signal sets that we use. The only difference is they're not customized for each individual, but we're capable of doing that for people
Okay.
uh, at scale.
I do have a question. Um, so I think a lot of people could see a degree in good to being dialed in. Obviously, there's a lot of bad in terms of poor sleep, all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Um, it doesn't make your ability to be dialed in go away. It sounds like it's teaching your brain to regulate itself better.
That's right. We're not
Okay.
forcing you into
Right.
a frequency regime. We're helping your brain regulate itself. Right. Once you get out of phase, by out of phase I mean hypervigilant or hypovigilant, where you just dissociate. I don't know if you've met folks like that. They're like they come back from downrange and they just don't want to do shit. They just want to sit around all day and drink
Yeah.
beer and watch TV. That's dissociation. They don't want to go anywhere. Or a lot of times TBI and concussion, you just you can't get out of your own way. Every once in a while, one of our executives here at IW is a former Delta uh, uh, member who's got a number of brain injuries, and every once in a while he sends an email, and it's just word salad. He doesn't even realize he's doing it. Um, we can help you with that because we're regulating how different parts of the brain work together, as opposed to creating sort of this mindset. It's not a mindset creator. It's just creating a healthy rhythm
Hmm.
inside the neurophysiological system in your brain. There are things like when you think about how memory works. When a lot of us have problems with memory issues,
That's
or
something I've
we
had issues with.
yeah. How you store memory is really kind of fascinating in your brain. It's called something called synaptic weighting. And a synapse is the connection between two neurons. And what happens is there's a number of probabilities. It's actually a quantum field that sits inside your brain. And how your brain remembers isn't by sort of like a computer. I put it in long-term memory and then I make a call and I bring it out. It's actually sitting there all the time. And what you need is the ability to trigger it. And we can teach you the ability to trigger that by very, very simple, easy to use neurofeedback techniques
Okay.
that help you sort of, you walk around and you're like, oh, I can't remember the name of that guy. I can't remember the name of that guy. And then
Yeah.
10 minutes later, you're like, oh, shit, it's Frank. It just pops in your head. That's synaptic weighting. That's the probabilities run through, and when
Mm.
you look away, boom, it comes out. We're teaching your brain to do that naturally.
Um, so obviously the app is a good way to take advantage of this.
Mhm.
Are there other avenues of approach? Like you could do it all on a website, say, or is
No,
the app the main way?
it's delivered via the app or
Okay.
through a program. Like we do programs for businesses. We do programs for the military. We have a very interesting program. Here's one. You guys serve together in the same unit, right?
Yeah. Same
So
platoon.
so awesome. So you're on a you're on a patrol. You're on a foot patrol somewhere. Um, I don't know whether I'm not sure how the Army organizes in the Marine Corps. It's a squad with 12 members and three fire teams. Each fire team has four guys. You might be in a
That
squad echelon right.
Yeah, that's all terminology we
Okay.
understand, and
All right.
numbers wise, pretty similar.
Okay. So when you're on a patrol, how often do you look around to see where everybody is?
Mm,
You don't. You just kind of know.
yeah, maybe that's the best. Yeah, maybe that's why I paused so long. So I was
Yeah.
thinking, I look around and I see other guys, so I guess subliminally I know they're there.
Yeah, it's a sort of like hive mind, especially like if you you get decisively engaged. You're not really thinking about what everybody else is doing. You just kind of know. And the reason for that is you have in your body neurons that are called mirror neurons, and they allow you essentially to engage in hive mind and groupthink. Right? You're never closer. You guys serve together downrange. You're probably like brothers, right? I got this old beat up fire plug retired CWO4 who is my complete and total opposite. Like I mean, he's dumb even for a Marine. Uh, and on the other hand, he hit me once and my grandfather yelled. I mean, a guy is like an animal. Uh, we couldn't be more different and yet couldn't be more close because of the time we spent together in some really interesting circumstances. Those neurons that mirror each other allow you to create what's called functional resonance. So I'm probably going to be politically incorrect for some of the listeners, but I'll give you a great example
Please do.
of functional resonance. Either of you have, well, you're not old enough to have teenage daughters yet. What happens when you put five women in a house together for 6 months?
Oh, they synchronize.
Yeah, and so do you, right? You put 12 soldiers, 12 Marines together in a squad bay and send them out on patrol every day for a year. They are one functioning unit. And you can teach that. You can entrain that with a group of people using neuromodulation. It's really fascinating. So you can create, I don't know, I didn't ask what you were doing now that you got out, but I've been running companies. This is my eighth business. I've been a CEO since I was 33. And I can tell you that everybody thinks that in the C-suite of companies or in the generals in the military or the nonprofits, head of the nonprofits, even in politics, everybody thinks people in the C-suite, they all went to the same colleges and universities and they live in the same neighborhoods and their kids play together and every Tuesday is taco night at the CEO's house. And the reality is they're a bunch of borderline sociopathic elbow throwing assholes who basically spent their whole careers climbing over the backs of their peers to get to where they are. And they don't cooperate well. So if you want to create the kind of interdependency, the kind of teamwork you find in the military, you have to create the circumstances that lead to that. And that's a program that we put together. We have a PTSD program we can bring that anywhere. We're working with some folks out in LA right now, LAPD and fire. We can do an in-person 20-person program, takes 3 days. Really good for helping people deal with the stresses of that kind of life.
Okay, excellent. What would be your advice to a veteran or service member that is first starting out in the program?
Uh, Two things. Try every exercise on the app and then send us an email if you have any questions. We
Okay.
monitor that box 24/7. Um, if they're listeners of yours and they write to the show, we'll give you an address that they can write to. We'll get them a free version of the app. They can try it. If they have questions, we'll help them. I can tell you the Navy SEAL, the Delta guy, I've got a Marine, retired Marine intelligence officer. I'm on my way out to go talk to a Navy captain who's been out of the Navy for 10 years as submarine commander, all struggling with issues. If you're listening to this podcast and you feel like you're struggling at that level, let somebody know, and we'll come out and help you.
Yeah, definitely give us the address, email address, all the contact info, because not only will we
Yeah.
put it in the description of the episode, but Nick might have told you we have a resources tab.
Hmm.
We put all that information in on our
Yeah.
website.
Yeah.
And then also like when Nick does the social media and stuff, that stuff will get thrown in there as well. Because again, we're all about information sharing it. So that'd be a great thing to put out.
We talked a little bit about suicide. I think it's 42 years now since Beirut, and we just lost two Beirut veterans this year or in 2025.
Damn.
It's 20 years since Fallujah, and it's 8 a year that are going out of Fallujah. That is absolutely unacceptable. Right. So if you're in
Yeah.
one of those categories and you need help, reach out. Someone will pick up the phone.
Yeah. I think the number, and I think it's by a lot, there are more veterans that have been lost to suicide than the amount of people lost in 9/11.
Yeah, doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, me either. Man, I should have been writing down questions because I was thinking of a lot as we were talking, but also we're trying to avoid the 5 hour podcast, and we're
Yeah,
just
we're
still going to
already at
talk
like an
about your
hour.
yeah, we're still going to talk about your veteran one, your veteran experience. But anyway, that's all I can come up with for now. This could totally be the kind of thing. If I come up with more questions, maybe I'll listen to it again. Maybe have you on again if you're willing. It's just such a fascinating topic because I'm the kind of guy where if I know nothing about it. I know nothing, but then it's like the imagination can run wild on, especially when you hear AI these days or you hear about neurologic. So I was very interested to hear um, some of the details and find out more. And now that I have some information, I've got a way better understanding. Um,
I got a
so
great
yeah,
deal. I got a great deal for you. Have me back and I'll bring Mark Green. Mark Green is the Navy SEAL. He wrote a book called Unsealed. It's available on Amazon. It's being turned into a series.
okay.
He's still using the technology today. I've been working with Mark now for 4.5 months. His girlfriend is a EMDR therapist who deals with PTSD as well. He's come to just at Nellis Air Force Base doing a demo of the technology for the pilots there. He's got a great story, and he's a really fabulous guy, just a really interesting person. You never know, it's kind of funny. Uh, for the most part, most of the SEALs I know, the retired ones, you could kind of pick them out of a room. You'd never know Mark was that kind of a guy, and he was a sniper too. He's a real deal. But again, he's got a ton of experience there, and I would have to ask him first, but I also have that retired Delta Force Sergeant Major who's kind of a legend in the special operations community we're working with. But I don't have
Just out of
permission from him yet.
curiosity, can
Yeah.
you say his name? Because I'm working on getting one right now, and I wonder if it's the same guy.
I can't. I could tell you when the recording's off. I don't want to share his name because he hasn't given us permission to use it.
I'll tell you what, we don't even have to push it that hard.
Yeah,
I'm interested in both. I mean, you got to
yeah,
deal on both individuals. We
yeah,
can have the two of you on, et cetera, or just one of them, however you guys want to do it. But yeah, we'd be interested because I just don't think the subject can be covered enough because I think there's so many different experiences, and as you know. Everyone's different. The
yeah,
human brain works differently for different people. So I'm hoping people listening
yeah,
are hearing pieces of these episodes and they finally feel validated hearing that somebody else is like them, whether it's me, Nick, you, the gentleman you're talking about, anyone else we've had on. I hope that there can be some of that understanding about themselves that they're not alone.
Amen to that.
Yeah, been awesome having you on. I look forward to the veteran interview as well. For everybody else, it's going to be like 2 weeks. For you and I and Nick, about 5 minutes, if that. But yeah, thank you. We'll get all this information out. Everyone, thank you for joining us. I hope it was valuable, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. We thank you for listening, and we hope you got something helpful out of this content.
If you're looking for more, be sure to check out our resources tab on our website.
Unbroken-veterans.com.
And if you're looking for ways to connect, be sure to reach out to us on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn.
Until next time, remember to check your zeros, fives, tens, and 25s.